I know. Is it on? Yeah? Okay. Hi, everyone. So today masterclass is going to be, finally, how showcase websites fuel growth. And it's presented by me from Refokus and Ali from Webflow. Let's dive in. So, hi there again. So I'm Leo. I'm the CEO from Refokus. I have been in the industry for over 15 years and working with the startups, unicorns, enterprises. These are some of the clients that we have. And I think something also, which probably caused some of the problems that we have technically now, is how we're going to do this presentation. We wanted to not be like a sales pitch, but actually something that we normally do as well with our clients and give you like kind of like experience of, we're using Fixam, which is kind of a whiteboard thing. So give you an experience of how we think and how we structure as well information. So we are going to also share this link afterwards, so you can jump in and check all the links and all the stuff. So who I am? I'm a designer, I'm a Webflow developer, I'm a project manager, I'm doing marketing. So I went through different paths, and now I'm an agency founder. Would like to actually know a little about you as well. Yeah, I know we're doing this. so so like just a couple of questions to understand who you are. Actually, since we started a little bit later, I'm going to skip a couple of them. So let's go for that one. Like, have you heard of Webflow before? Right hand, yes. No. No. Okay, cool. Nice. That's cool. So every time I need to, well, I mean, if you're using Webflow, that should not be. Do you love your website? Right hand, left hand? Huh. Not that much. That's good. Cool. So, what we actually want to focus today is showcase websites. I'm going to zoom in now. Basically, showcase websites are cool websites that have two main things. First is they have a single objective. So, is everyone reading from the back as well? Is all good? Yeah? It's good zoom? Yeah, perfect. So, single objective. So, why is this website actually exist? I mean, like, when we define the success of a website, I don't have a website that is doing everything. Like I know, sometimes your website will say, yeah, we have different type of customers. We want a website for lead generation, but also for reputation. So why this website exists as a single objective is making it so much powerful to actually have a greater impact. So that's basically the next step. It's like, what do we want to say or share? So you're limiting actually the amount of information that you need to share and focus on being really precise on what type of information you share. Some examples that we are going to see afterwards as well for showcase websites like brand positioning, employer branding, event promotion, and sales enablement, new market reach. There's a lot of different things that you can do with showcase sites. We're going to go over 4 case studies in a bit, which is going to be brand positioning, employer branding, event promotion, and new market reach. Also, what is actually connected to this single objective is who are you talking to? So define a specific audience. Like you are not talking to like 3 different type of target audience. You are not talking to like I know vendors and providers and sales and everything together. You just target on one single really small demographic. And the whole value of that is actually that it's easier to find. And it's also easier to find where you distribute them. So if you like do ads, you can just target, okay, this demographic, like I know, people in Hamburg in the marketing industry. So that's the showcase website. And then the second part of it is they need to attract attention. They need to be beautiful. They need to show that power on the side. Kind of be something boring. You can explore also way more. You can make something way cooler than your own website because your own website has to stay on brand guidelines. So you can explore way more stuff. Beautiful design, innovative layouts, powerful animations. All of these things are actually what makes a website to attract attention. The key question is like, why would you do that? So part of this presentation is actually that. So it allows us to build for, and it makes easier to have maximum impact. It's like, wow, maximum impact. It's like, so let's define maximum impact. So you have a single objective, right? So it's easier to promote. You spend your budget way smarter. So your ads are targeting perfect. Your promotion is targeting perfect. Don't have like spread and see what works. So you can focus, what I say, one audience, one goal, talk directly to consumers, and optimize for marketing and budget ROI. And the second part, attract attention, is basically part of this experience versus selling. I mean, we don't want to get sell, we want to have experiences online. So websites are basically doing that. So we show and we don't tell. So experiences are memorable than pictures. That's super important. I mean, when you pitch something on a showcase website, it's normally going to fail because people won't have the whole experience on it. So it needs to be a memorable experience. They need to engage the audience also on a emotional level. It needs to be like either have fun or inspire or educate them. But it has to be something that like, oh, cool. Like I got something after scrolling a couple of times on this site. It builds reputation on your brand. I mean, having a really cool site steps apart from just having your normal site and that's it. Like it's making people talk to it. It's like they're sharing organic, hey, have you seen this cool website? Or this website won an award and you have it on the design and development communities and they start like getting more traction. Like, I don't know, even your competitors are going to come and say, hey, I really like the website from them. We should do something like that. So you start getting way more traction just for having something cool out there. And all of that basically together is basically what this masterclass is about, which is fueling growth. So you basically use the power of single target, of really good spend, of beautiful design and attracting attention and easy to share. And all of that is actually fueling the growth of your brand. So basically that's just summary explanation of what Showcase Websites is. Does anyone has any questions? I want to like leave that space as well. So we're going to have a Q&A afterwards as well. But if anyone has any question, can raise your hands. No? Good. I must be really good. So let's go back to, okay, so where were you again? So just a quick intro on why actually you should listen to us. Refokus, I gave a little intro at the beginning, but we are a full service web agency. We are a team of 22. We actually founded in January 2021, and we grew from 2 to 22, actually 23 next week. We work with startups, unicorn enterprises. We have won a lot of awards for our work. And we are a Webflow enterprise partner, actually the only Webflow enterprise partner in Germany. And Webflow, we have Ali from New York. She's an account executive at Webflow, and she's going to introduce a little like what Webflow is. And
Thank you, Leo. And yes, that is my face on the screen. So I'm an enterprise account executive at Webflow. I've been with the company for about 1.5 years now. Typically working with marketers that are really just looking to take back control of their website. That's a lot of who we engage with. It sounds like there's a lot of people in this crowd that either use Webflow or have heard of Webflow, which is awesome. Leo's going to go into a lot of these showcase websites that he's talking about, but just wanted to give a bit of a background of the technology underneath, which is Webflow. So to give you a bit of a sense, our mission statement is to empower everyone to create for the web. So with that, here's a bit of numbers and history for everybody, but Webflow was actually founded in 2013 by two brothers. We've since grown to over 450 employees now globally. We're a distributed workforce. We've raised $335 million in funding and have over a $4 billion valuation. But when we talk about Webflow's technology itself, we have 3.5 million users. We have 11 billion page views happening every month. We have a lot of content that is being hosted on Webflow. So I want to give you a bit about kind of what that technology is. So with Webflow, what we typically see is, the typical problem with website creation is that marketers are responsible for the website. They have to get top of funnel metrics. They have conversion rates, bounce rates, everything that's related to the website. But historically, they can oftentimes be owned by engineering, and that's creating a bottleneck for marketers who are trying to do what they need to do first. On the flip side of that, sometimes businesses will try and solve this with really simple kind of drag and drop tools, which when you do that can oftentimes pull away a lot of limitations of functionality and things that you need. So when we look at what Webflow is, so Webflow is a visual designer that's actually building HTML, CSS, and JavaScript underneath. So it's that visual representation of code that allows you to quickly publish live content. It's a full content management system, so you can then engage with dynamic content and really build out robust content and references and make SEO really strong throughout a site. But what's particularly exciting for marketers is when you host and have websites in Webflow, there's an editor view, and this really allows for marketing collaboration. So this really allows for marketers to come in, to add, to edit, to update content, and just post it live. So we really see businesses scale with speed to market and growing brands as they're trying to stay agile in the market. So that's one piece that's really important for marketers. And then also hosting. So Webflow is a fully managed hosting solution. So it's really important that there is security top of mind, compliance top of mind. And if we look kind of here at the next piece, some logos you may recognize. These are just some of our many customers that work with Webflow, going through rigorous security reviews, making sure we have everything that they need in order to really host and manage their content with Webflow. And this is really what's allowing them to drive innovation and scale in the way and the speed in which they want to on their websites. So I'm actually on the Webflow Enterprise team at Webflow. So just some kind of key pieces of that and what makes it kind of different from maybe what you've experienced in our self-serve product, or if you have no context on Webflow at all. So Webflow Enterprise comes with a dedicated partnership, which what that means is as you're learning Webflow, you have a dedicated team for training and for onboarding. So we really take that on as your team and partner. Year-round technical and customer support, just to make sure you're building with best practices in Webflow and really helping your team take as much in-house as you can. Of course, hosting, so scaling hosting with traffic needs, uptime monitoring, response time guarantees, all of that comes with the dedicated team. Along with security and compliance, this is really top of mind for growing brands. We do rigorous security reviews, just making sure we check all the boxes. There's uptime monitoring. There's security features such as SSO and advanced DDoS protection, which is usually really top of mind. And then collaboration and workflow. As enterprise organizations are trying to have more workflow streams within the solution, we're starting to really see what it looks like to have more collaboration. So whether that's multiple workflows at once, roles and permissions, site activity log, really making sure you understand who's doing what at all times as you grow in new technologies for the brand. So all of that's going to be really top of mind when we talk about Webflow Enterprise. Cool. And then just to give you a sense of some of our use cases, maybe some of you have already used Webflow in these ways, but every day I think we can say that we see new creative ways that people are using Webflow's technology. These are just some of our most common ones. So we typically see people using Webflow to power their main.com, which is really allowing them to make sure that their brand and all of their online presence is scaling as quickly as it needs to through their main.com. We also see a lot of marketing teams using Webflow for landing pages and marketing campaigns, really pushing content through and then back to the main.com, all with that seamless brand messaging. And then what we're going to go into more today, which is showcase websites. This is a really big one, I think, for a lot of large brands, having microsites and showcases that either talk directly to consumers or present thought leadership or present a new product or service, just really making it so that you can hyper-focus on something that your company is doing and really get creative with how you scale it. So I'm going to pass it back to Leo, who's going to give some showcase website examples.
Thank you. Amazing. Cool. So, case studies, that's something that we actually wanted to do. And the way that we are doing this, I can zoom out a little. We're going to talk about 4 sites that we actually built. Just give you some intro on what we did, why we did it, why it's important, like how it's related to what we talk about, what showcase websites are. Overall, like just give you some tips and tricks on how we implemented this with Webflow as well. So let's dive in. I'm probably going to go a little fast at the beginning just to make sure that we can cover everything because we started later. So let's start with this one. So rainfall. Let's see if this works. So I recorded a video because they say the internet was not going to be working. Let's see if it's smooth enough. So basically it's just navigating the site normally. Here we have like a slider, which is also custom made, but we're going to go into details in the presentation. So, cool. So Rainfall is a venture capital firm. They actually investors as well in Webflow. They came to us with the need of having a website. It's like the main goal was actually brand positioning. So they wanted to share the values. They wanted to say, okay, we are a different type of founder. We are not just the common VC, and we are actually founder-friendly VC. And they invest in founders that actually they trust. So there's like, okay, they trust Webflow early on that they will change how websites are built, and they're actually supporting them on that. So this whole side is actually is their main side, but it's acting as a showcase side because of the nature of it. It's really short. It's really like has a lot of cool animations and powerful stuff. So what we did here is, so basically what we started is introducing the venture. So workarounds founders, changing industries. We did this with like a lot of the animation in the back. So for those who don't know, I'm going to mention a lot of the animations. That's basically animations that are made outside of your Webflow or development program, and then you basically install them as a kind of like a version of a video, but way more smooth. So that's kind of like the easiest I could explain that. So then we jump into a slider. So this slider, the whole idea of the slider was to show innovative industry. This was actually the most powerful part of the site because we had to show all the different industries they invest and also the cool companies they invest in. So it was more than just, okay, let's throw everything there and see how it looks, but actually had to have a specific organization and navigation. And then we went into the USP, basically, how Rainfall is actually different, how actually they redefine what founder-friendly is. So we work with some Webflow animations here. We position the company quite strongly in that. Then, lastly, we focus on the founders and partners. And then we also show a portfolio. And this portfolio, for example, is actually quite interesting because they want to they keep investing, they want to keep updating this. So this is whole built in CMS, the content management system from Webflow. And then we added like some custom code on top for the filters and for having a lazy load as well. So it's way more smooth and way more efficient and performance. For this side, for example, since it's really short and it had a lot of other stuff, performance was super important. And actually, we did quite a decent job with that. That's from Lighthouse Analytics on that. So the site, we won a couple of awards as well with the site. They got mentioned a lot. Clients super happy. But ultimately, they have one target. They have a target that founders that wanted a VC that is not intrusive, that is not in their way. And we use this showcase website to really surely show that. And they could actually promote that really heavily in their investment groups. Like actually what they did with this, since we were actually featuring founders, like for example, like the guys from Robinhood, every one of their founders were actually proud of saying, hey, look, we have a highlight in our investors website, check that out. And that actually created a lot of virality for them. So that was Rainfall. We're going to jump into another one, which is event promotion. So this one is for Yahoo. So Yahoo, once more, was the official innovation partner for the New York Fashion Week 2022, all of that. They collaborated with Macy William, yeah. And basically what they did is actually, they did a whole fashion show, which was all virtually. So they had like these massive screens with models that were like 3D made, or actually taking pictures 3D. And they wanted a representation of that in the website because a lot of people who didn't went into the New York Fashion Week, they want to still reach them and they want to still like sell the collection and show how innovative Yahoo is. So what we did here is actually display and basically transform that gallery from the New York Fashion Week into a website. So we started look and feel. that was actually one of the most challenging things because it had to be a mix between Yahoo and a completely different style, which was totally high fashion. Was actually the characters were inspired by Monster High, and that was actually what Macy Villan actually based herself for the designs of the clothes. And this is actually part of the show. And I'm going to show you with that intro how this website actually looks like, because it has a lot of quite cool animations as well. So that's actually the models which were made in 3D, and you could like navigate them. And with that QR code, you could scan the QR code and get a AR view in your phone as well. Then we have a backstage video to shop the collection, and then we have a slider that all of these models actually had animated videos when you hovered on them, and then we just close up with some backstage from the event. So going back to here, so just explain that. Some key takeaways here. So the whole idea of a showcase page that is for events is either to anticipate the event or to extend the event experience. So in this case was to extend the event experience. They wanted that the visitors of the website have the same feeling that the people in the fashion show. So that was actually super important. And when you do that before the event, that's also really important that you have that experience as well, or tease that experience. So when the persons are going to the event, or even those who are not going to the event and getting media from that, they actually feel that they were part of that. So really important, immerse visitors into the same look and feel of the event, find places to create call to actions, and use the technology to enhance the experience, to make it more memorable. For example, in this case, with these cool 3D things that you can like move around and rotate the models and see them on AR. So one single piece of technology on a showcase site could make you like this wow effect, and it could give you this more immersive experience. So next one, it's Wiglot. So Wiglot actually, this one is actually really long. I'm going to try to shorten it up a little. We can actually watch the video and I can comment on that a little. So Wiglot, basically what they actually wanted to do is, the Wiglot is a translation service. So they want to actually reach more the Sherman market, and they ask us for creating something cool, something fun, something that people will share. So everything about the site starts with like fun things, fun facts about like Sherman culture and associated with the language, how long the words are, how many names for beer glasses are, and then breaking into a game of, we actually made this, I can stop it 2 seconds here. We actually made this game, like this was made in Webflow, and then we added custom code on top. And basically what you need to do is you need to guess which words are actually like potatoes, strawberries, and Berliners. I don't know how you translate Berliners in like balls with things inside. So you actually had to drag and drop, and then after that you will get a score. And then once you get the emotional experience of the users in there and saying like, okay, that was fun, start getting them into a place where the call to action of the site is coming. So let's go back to this one. So we started with fun. We created a lot of Lottie animations, with Webflow and Lottie, which is super good to combine. And then after the game, you get this score, which you actually can share. It's actually really hard, inclusive like for Sherman people. It's amazing amount of words there for the same things. So, and then we actually jump into, okay, it would be great that besides these language restrictions, besides that Sherman is so hard to translate, so let's show what Sherman is actually in the world, and then start actually getting in a different, like from fun to proud on what is Germany exporting, how big is Germany outside of Germany, and getting the audience actually off this side to say, okay, like you may be small or maybe you're large, like move into, be like part of this movement of like go global, go multi-language, show Germany to the world. And then we have this this call to action, which was basically, okay, since you're already part of something big, now let's show you how much impact your business could have by translating your site. And actually, I can quickly show that here, how that interaction is. So as you were actually adding languages, I think I didn't record that, but basically as soon as you were adding languages, this number will start counting up. And then after all of that, we actually introduced Wiggle, which was the translation service. So we didn't focus the whole site or the majority of the site to show the brand, but actually to show the message, to show the movement, to get emotional attached to the site, to tell a story before actually setting a brand. And that's part of like attract attention and don't sell, but actually show and tell and engage emotionally. Key tips and takeaways. Connect with your target audience. So experiences people can share. Like for example, like the game we did, there's like great things for people to actually play around, share it. Hey, let's see how many you are like guessing. We also have like a share on Twitter thing. And then take people through emotional journey. So for example, in this one, we try to make people laugh. Then we make them feel proud. Then we tap into the need of belonging to something bigger. So the whole site is actually trying to get them into a place of like, okay, yeah, we should translate our site. So, and that's part of these showcase sites. That is like the whole message is we should translate our website. I should tell my CEO, hey, look at this cool website. We should translate our site. And that's the whole point of a showcase site. Cool. And the last one is actually one from us, which is our first year in review. I'm going to play the video. It's this one. Cool. So this one was actually a lot of experimenting from our side. We had a lot of fun trying different technologies, trying like 3GS, trying a lot of Webflow animation. This was all built with Webflow as well. Thank you. Dangerous. I think. So we added a lot of little things and animations everywhere. I think we can jump into the slides. So this was an internal project. This was 100% focused on employer branding. We actually wanted to show that we are a fast-growing agency, that we care about our people, that we put our people first, and that we actually do really cool stuff, which also translates into how we actually challenge and educate and help our people to get every day better. So I think that's also really important when brands are doing employer branding. It's always about the story and the people that actually is making your brand, and not like, hey, we just did all of this, we won a lot of awards. Awards are cool, but they need to have a meaning related to the people as well. So we started this site, making a good splash with a hero. For this, actually, we use 3GS together with Webflow, so you can have like this 3D animation on the hand. Then, again, we went straight up to showing our people, like who actually we had in our team in this first year. Then we show how much actually we grow and how actually we care about people. So this thing here, I think it's really bad to see, right? So wait, I'm going to go back to the video and I'm going to just stop it around. That doesn't work. That, yeah. So this thing here actually was something that, okay, we show our people, we care about our people, but what is that meaning? Something that we figured out, okay, how are we actually measuring that? And the ENPS, if you're familiar, is Employer Net Promoter Score, is actually what are your employees? It's like it's just a question from 1 to 10. Would you recommend a friend to work in this company? And we actually have 90, which is impressive for agencies, which are normally around the 50s, 60s. And now, actually, this year, we actually reached the 100, which we're super proud of. And I think that's also part of the story. I mean, we show that we care about people. We show something that demonstrates that. So we care about people, but this is concrete data on that, and then jump into, okay, what are we doing? And then you can connect this. Okay, these are the people. This is what they're doing. Showing like some coolness here. Showing some animation. So I'm showing part of like the story of our brand, and then jumping into awards. So which awards have you win, or how much your brand is out there? That's also super important because like people want to actually work with people and want to work in places they feel challenged and they feel that they can actually do cool stuff. This last one is actually an open source-ish project. Like we didn't open source the code, but it's all tools for free for everyone who actually wants to add integrations to Webflow, like sliders generation, CMS low more, masonry layout. So a lot of tools that you can really easy plug and play on top of Webflow. We can talk a little more about that later on. So these are the 4 case studies of what a showcase website is, what things you should have in mind in specific cases like brand positioning, event promotion, market reach, and employer branding. I want to tell you a little more like behind the scenes of how we refocus, we are working with Webflow. So, and why we're actually working with Webflow. So, is that big enough? No, that's not big enough. So, why we are using Webflow, the first thing. So, the first thing is actually the synergy of value with our clients. So, for us, it's more time on design, which is actually what we normally do is like we don't just charge less because we are faster on design. We actually spend more time in design so we can actually create this type of sites and not just like, okay, we do something quick because now we can do it quick, but actually, okay, we can use and repurpose that for creating award-winning websites. Powerful animation engine that Webflow has is also part of this, that we can spend all this time actually creating these cool animations. And then for the marketers, which is like our main audience, is marketing autonomy. That's great because as a marketing team, you don't need to tell your IT guy that we need to change the wording in the site, or you don't need to suffer with like the plugins in WordPress like failing. So this whole thing is actually super, super important for them. And it's also fast and SEO friendly. And I added a couple of things here, which is where actually these things are met for marketers, which is you can edit and publish content in a visual editor. So you just basically right-click and edit. You can add or edit schema markups. That's super helpful. Meta titles, meta descriptions, index sitemap control, 301 redirect. So everything that is like to optimize your SEO is super easy to make. You don't have to add plugins. You don't have to add anything on top. So that makes our life as well easier because we can give like marketing teams the power of actually using the sites that we design and build, and we don't have to basically babysit them and have eternal retainers because they actually cannot do anything by themselves. And this empowers them to actually keep creating, keep coming out with new ideas, and keep actually working with us on better sites, on showcase sites, on rebrandings, and keep pushing the brand forward. And where we met actually in the middle is actually we move faster, which is super important for marketing, and it's a plug-and-play solution. There's no server setup. We don't have to do hosting. Webflow does hosting. So the whole thing is actually super seamless for us as well. And the second reason, and this is actually going a little more into details on technical details, is like Webflow is a no-code tool, and sometimes no-code is associated with like, okay, it's fast, it's cheap, it's low quality, the code is not going to be that nice. So we always say like no code, no compromises, because for us, Webflow is an implementation tool, it's a development tool, and it's owned actually by our engineering team. Our designers are not touching Webflow. There's a couple of things that we actually saying about this. I actually wrote an article on Webflow blog about this, which is the 3 biggest misconceptions of no code. Just short summary on that is anyone can build anything. So yes, you can build anything, But at the same time, for building this type of showcase sites, you need a strategy, you need design, you need development, you need project management. You need people who know what they're doing. And that's where sometimes no code is getting confused with low quality because it's more accessible. But I always like to say, like, I think I have a quote there. So everyone knows how to use the tools inside Toolbox, but that doesn't qualify you to plan, design, and build the house. The tools are accessible. That's what Webflow does. It's allowing everyone to build, but the scale of what you actually want to build sometimes require different skills as well. And then second misconception is no code doesn't involve code. And you don't have to touch code, but you're actually creating code. So when you are like using a no-code tool like Webflow, and especially like Webflow, because Webflow is producing like super clean code, so you have that power of like drag and drop code into the canvas. So you build with code. You just build it visually. I always like to say it's not a no-code tool. It's actually a hide code tool because you don't see the code, but the code is there, and you actually have responsibility to building that actually properly. And the third part, which I'm going to also dig deeper to the presentation, is you are limited to the platform features. So no-code tools, Webflow, they are tools that are having a roadmap, they have a set of features, and the most important part is that they're not just tools, they're the platform. So you can actually build on top of this. There's no limits for what you can actually build in Webflow. We have been building from marketing sites, we have been playing with web applications. So it's basically how you're actually using this tool. So for us, we use Webflow for the things that does the best, which is building HTML, CSS, and sometimes JavaScript when you're doing animations or specific components. Create animations, hosting, and CMS. That's what Webflow is absolutely the best. And that's why we bet our future of our agency to it. And then we just add. You can add integrations like third-party libraries, custom code, and you just build on top of it. And sorry. Extending that actually, it's like how. Oh, sorry. How are we actually doing that? And it looks massive. Sorry. So we are doing like three main things to make sure that we are following the best practices on development practices and how we build on Webflow and why we call Webflow a development tool. So first, we have class nomenclature. That's something really small for development, but super important for no-code tools on Webflow. You need to have something that has a structure and that actually it can scale. You cannot just like throw things there and like image 364 in Webflow. That's making a mess, and then you cannot scale, and then you're just going over refactors, which actually is slower than not using it at the beginning. So what we do is we have our own class nomenclature. Actually, that's also a link. It's all of this stuff that is linked here is all free. So we just open up everything how we build it in Webflow. It's actually based on BEM for those who are familiar with development, but with a couple of tweaks that are actually helping to implement better in Webflow. Then development best practices. So this is actually also super important, which is you need great performance and you need great page speed. This is actually the three things that we also identify that have the most influence in page speed. But I'm going to just leave it there. You can also check it on the presentation. It's like super technical, so there's just tips and tricks for reducing the page load and making the site way faster. SEO best practices, you can do everything with Webflow in that sense. So you have the correct HTML structure, 301 redirects. That's super important as well when you set up a new site that has dependencies. Fast server and fast loading times. Webflow has amazing server structure, which is based on Amazon Web Server with like clusters all over. So that's super fast, and that makes it way easier to actually have that check. And then it's easy to scale. So what we do a lot is we call it like a smart CMS setup. We're trying to figure out what are your use cases now and what are your use cases in the next like 6 months and the next 12 months. And then we build a CMS so you can actually use that. So for example, you could build a CMS for sales enablement, sales presentations, where your sales team has the specific sections that can be turned on and off to create presentations by themselves. So that's actually super helpful for your marketing to have more autonomy on what they do. Then custom code is also part of what I was saying. Webflow allows you to build on top of it. That's as beautiful as it is. So we have our own tools as well, Refokus tools. Those are also free, which is it's basically the tools that we are using, and we are like slowly releasing them to the public. We actually have 6, 7 live right now, but there's around like 30 something that we are creating demos and documentation, and then we will release pretty soon. That's it. That's all I have to say. Cool. So we can jump into questions. I was planning actually to do this where we can actually take notes of the questions, but we don't have internet in this room, so we just have questions.
I'm going to walk around with the mic, so just raise your hand if you have questions.
Oh, good.
Thanks. Can you hear me?
I think everyone can hear you besides me.
I try to speak louder. Yeah. So first of all, thanks for the very interesting talk. I wonder, I'm web designer, and I wonder what are the advantages of Webflow compared to WordPress, which is also pretty popular.
Ooh, that's a big topic. So WordPress versus Webflow. I think it's key that you have. I mean, you understand also what WordPress is good for, because sometimes when you say like, I mean, you see companies doing like A versus B. We are better than that one, and that's normally like quite biased. So WordPress is an open source, so it has the ability to create new platforms in WordPress. As a designer, you have zero use for that. So you're basically going to have a lot of headaches having a server set up, like you add a plugin that doesn't have the version on the server that you need, so you need to update it. All of that mess on the server setup, that's something that is amazing to get away, get out of the way. So in that sense, Webflow is pretty cool because you can host directly there. You just pay monthly for hosting, which is normally cheaper than if you even have your own server. And that's the best part of that part. Then WordPress, it doesn't allow you to build visually. So whatever you want to change, or if you want to hand that over to a client, I mean, the client has to basically create a ticket to IT to change something instead of actually, okay, I'm going in, I'm changing the text, I click publish, done. So the whole experience for the client, server hosting, and then you have the whole designer. For you, I mean, we don't use Webflow, like our design team doesn't use Webflow, it's our development team using it, but our design team can also test things. So they're testing animations, how is this looking? And there's also way more collaboration with the development team. Hey, I was thinking to do this animation while scrolling with this here. Well, that will be less performance, let's work on that. So there's a lot of more same team feeling than, okay, here is the Figma, here's the sketch, and you implement it, and then I'm checking if you actually did what I was imagining. So that whole thing is actually part of like Webflow versus WordPress thing. Cool.
I think just to add to that as well, working at Webflow, I would say WordPress migrations are our most common use case. Typically, we find that businesses that are migrating off of WordPress, when they first built it, it felt like it was doing everything they needed. But as they continued to scale as a business, adding more features, if they wanted to leave a template, all of a sudden things started to become more developer-driven, which was kind of the reason what they were not trying to go for. So it starts to become more developer-driven. As it starts to grow and scale, I've had clients use the term house of cards. It just can be so quick to, something breaks very quickly. Of course, that's adding security vulnerabilities. So it's really about when you hit the mode of scale, WordPress tends to limit you in the way that it's been built, whereas Webflow seems to have just a more seamless technology underneath, and anyone can kind of walk in and follow the right naming conventions and continue to scale the site. It's a great question.
Someone else?
Any other questions?
Oh, no, not a chance.
So, hello everyone, I'm Richard and I'm a lead designer. So maybe my question is that if you're planning to work with a team, what are the advantages of working with an authorized partner? And another question is, what are the requirements when someone want to build a Webflow authorized team? So how these processes work as working with companies that are authorized as official Webflow partners?
Yeah.
I want to make sure I understand the question, or are you referring to, we'll walk back up here, but so are you referring to, one, what it's like to work with an expert, which I'll let Leo answer, an agency, and then two is, what does it look like to become a Webflow agency and expert? Awesome. Oh. So to answer that second question, we actually have, and if you stop by our booth later, we have a member of our partnerships team at Webflow who is here, who helps manage our partnerships. There is absolutely a way to become like Leo and Refokus and become a kind of vetted Webflow expert in our ecosystem, kind of that blue check mark that we then introduce clients to that need support to build. It's a pretty robust system. I'm not exactly sure what the requirements are, but I do know my partnerships manager will know, so definitely stop by the booth to get the list. And then when it comes to being a partner,
I mean, I think it doesn't matter if it's Webflow in the case. It's actually when you're a brand, what are the advantages of working with an agency or in general, even if it's for marketing or for branding or for design and development. So what you want to actually do and where we see that we add more value is actually to bring all our knowledge. I mean, we didn't build one website. So we built a lot of websites. We've seen a lot of different mistakes. We made a lot of mistakes, and we have a lot of background insights on what is successful, what is not successful, where you are going to fail, where you're going to succeed. So it's basically when you work with an agency, the whole thing that you're doing is bringing other expertise into the table, also reducing the risk. So like the whole part of like adding services is reducing risk. You want to launch a product, you want that product to be successful, you're investing, I don't know, a budget in marketing, in ads, you want that's making an impact. So how are you reducing that? Bringing an expert that have been done this before, instead of having maybe, I know, I'm hiring someone which is just learning Webflow and see what happens. Let's go.
Thank you. I have a question which...
Thank you.
Can you hear me? Okay, sorry. Right. So I actually didn't know that Webflow also has an enterprise version. So my question is, how would you define the differences between the enterprise design? What's the difference between enterprises and the non-enterprise version? And also, what do you offer differently to these two different types of products, and how do you see the needs of the demand is different or from the customers?
So I think everybody heard that, but the question was the biggest differences between Webflow self-service online and Webflow Enterprise. So I'm on the Webflow Enterprise team, and I think when we really start to see that kind of pivotal change is you go from creating content online, being able to self-service yourself, right? You can put in your credit card, you can immediately start building, you can deploy something. That's oftentimes most used by freelancers or individuals with a portfolio or maybe some side landing pages that don't have kind of critical assets on them. When people start to come to enterprise and when the program starts to make a bit more sense, there's a few kind of key drivers of that. One of which is if you're hosting something that is mission critical, or if it were to go down, there would be a large impacts for the business. Making sure that you have a service level agreement in place. Essentially what Webflow is doing is giving you a direct line to the technology itself. So rather than just, if something were to go wrong, we have a wonderful self-service customer support queue, but we have over 200,000 customers, and it's meant to be self-serviced. Whereas with Enterprise, you get a dedicated team. So that's going to be not only somebody who is kind of year-round technical support, unblocking your team, but it's also including of customized onboarding and training. So Webflow as a technology, it's a visual designer, but there is a bit of a learning curve. It's a professional tool. So our team would then take on kind of ownership of training and onboarding. So that's one big piece of it, is making sure you need to see that success in Webflow and being trained the proper way by the experts themselves. And then the security piece is super relevant when you're hosting, your main marketing asset or critical content, ensuring that you have a direct line if something were to go wrong, to have those uptime monitoring guarantees, and just security itself. So with Webflow Enterprise, we kind of do deep security reviews, right? We show our penetration tests and just we show what the security looks like for security teams when people go through those types of audits. It's really important that there's that additional layer of security. Along with that is also collaboration. So if you're familiar with Webflow today, in the self-service product, it does a lot of the things you need it to do when you're a small team or one person. What Webflow Enterprise has and what it's continuing to build as we continue to launch new features on our product roadmap is the need for more collaboration tools. So what does it look like when you can see every change somebody makes to set it to a backup? Really allowing for that governance that businesses need, along with some features with, and this is one particular feature we just launched that we're really proud of, is a designer light. What that means is a main designer can build everything that they want, and there's a new role in enterprise that allows designer lights. So you can't leave the brand guidelines, you can't leave the style guide, you can't change things, but you can build. And that is what really unlocks enterprises that have multiple team members. So as we're continuing to build more collaboration features, enterprise is going to be better fit for when there's higher scrutiny on the site, more of a need for compliance and security, training and support, and just really having that direct line to the technology. It's a great question.
Cool.
Hi. It was great to listen to your speech and also see all the cases. Just a question. At the beginning, you've mentioned that when we build a website, it should have one target group. Yes, just to focus. Yeah. I work for the company that actually, let's say, has a product. I would rather use the experience or the story to tell, but has two actually types of target groups. So one is professional, the other one is these are moms, yes. So buyers, consumers, yeah. Yes. And actually, I'm in the position that I need to answer myself the question whether I should put up a new website, like even standalone, like simple, for the professionals, and just make them kind of able to log in, have a different type of content, or make this differentiation on one website so actually consumers see that there is something more behind the product or the solution we deliver also for B2B, like, professionals, yes, healthcare people.
Yeah, I can take that one. So there's a real similarity to like marketplaces. So marketplaces normally is like the chicken and the egg. You need the people in the marketplace, you need the buyers on the marketplace. So in this case, you have like two targets. So your website can have a message about your brand. Why is it good? Why is it impactful for both targets? But then when you want to actually make a campaign for, I don't know, we want to attract more professional partners, you say, no, do you have like this? So you make a showcase site targeting only them, targeting only their problems. And that's actually when showcase websites are actually so much powerful, because instead of having a mixed message of like, or like I choose your own path, you're this or you're that, or we just try to be general because we don't want to like say something that they don't like or something they don't like. So with the showcase site, you focus on one, you create something short, something sweet, which attracts their attention, which is also helping you afterwards to sell to them and like target that specific group. So that way you have like maximum impact. You can, I mean, if you start running like, LinkedIn ads or Google ads, I mean, then you can actually target that person. If you target both, it's going to be like a diluted conversion.
Yeah, and I actually work with a lot of customers in the healthcare space, and it's really, really common to see, both clinicians as one source and then also having patients as another. What I've typically seen with Webflow Enterprise is they're both kind of it's very clear who's being serviced all at once, but it's the customer journey that's really critical. It's about once you see where you need to go, that you can follow that and kind of forget the rest. So the visibility is great to have, but making sure that the customer journey itself is really clear for those different types of buyers or users.
How are we with time? Good? How much time left? 25? Oh, cool.
Hi. I'm wondering, like, how did you experience building a community, and how can you do it, and how can you grow it, keep it growing?
I missed it. Sorry.
And when you say community,
In general, from a Webflow community or a community around Refocus.
that's a fun question.
How was the question again?
So he had asked about what it's like to build a community around a brand, and I can talk a little bit about Webflow, and I'm sure Refocus has its own story. But like I mentioned, I've only been with Webflow for about a year and a half now, so the community predates me. But what I can say is, so much about building a community is just providing value. It's not about selling your product. It's not about how much you reach, and especially for all the marketers here, right? It's about creating value every step of the way. Webflow was really able to build its community around creating that value. Oftentimes, I think when we first started, and Leo might know this better than me, but we were actually more catered to engineers when the product first launched. And all of a sudden, marketing teams got their hands on it, designers got their hands on it, and it started to grow organically. And so then what Webflow did to really build around that community is cater value to those different types of users so that they could see how they could get the most out of it. A marketer doesn't need to see how an engineer could get the most out of Webflow. They need to see how a marketer can. With that grew Webflow University, which is kind of our homegrown production company for all training and onboarding on Webflow. And the forum itself grows. I think it's also really important when you're building a community to listen. So I think that's something our CEO, Vlad, does a fantastic job of. Really making sure that we have internal Webflow representation across our forums and across different networks to make sure that we can hear and let the product grow from the community. So community is, I would say, one of the most important things to Webflow, and it really comes from just driving value.
Yeah, definitely. So sorry, I'm listening to myself. So from my side, at Refocus, we don't build community. That's not something that we say, okay, let's build community. So we have, for example, our Refocus tools, we have them, and we say, hey, a lot of people could actually benefit from that. So we just add value to people, and we just release them. Our whole intention with that was actually find more Webflow developers who wants to join us. So it was as simple as that, and start creating as well a community of people which are actually using the tool.
It's a great question. Anybody else have any questions?
Yeah, I have a legal question. How are you securing for European customers that the GDPR compliance? Because I think I heard you're hosting in the US, right? So yeah, what is the solution right now since the privacy shield is no longer in place?
A question around GDPR, everyone's favorite topic. So yes, and I'm sure Leo can give some context as well here.
So yeah.
Oh yeah.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, there's actually, because of Webflow's technology, there's a lot of flexibility. So when you talk about capturing data, it's really important who captures it, and it's going to be a big piece of this. So in Webflow, we have a global CDN, so we're still presenting content from local to the IP address for speed and performance. There's actually ways to bypass Webflow collecting any data at all on forms. It's just a way that you build that can be really impactful and actually mitigate the risk of having Webflow even see or look at any data as a US company.
Yeah, we are actually mostly based in Germany. I mean, we are a German company, Refokus is a German company. We work with a lot of German clients as well, and that's always a big topic. So one of our biggest clients actually Haufe, and they're using Webflow for every basically marketing site that they have. And then we learn a lot actually from that because they have like a law background on themselves. Something that is important to know is like it's all about, like Ali say, data collection. So something what we do, for example, is you don't use Webflow forms, that's what the part that is hosted in the US. You use something like Eloqua or HubSpot or some other integration that it has hosting in Germany or in Europe. And that way, if you don't process data as a website, then you are compliant on the data regulation part. Then there's also a lot of tools that you can add on top. For example, like I cannot remember this one, but there's a lot of tools that are actually allowing you to have cookie banners, which are way more customized. For example, you can say, okay, I don't want to play the YouTube video without consent. So you add all of these layers on top, and that's also part of Webflow being a development tool. So you can add these things on top. You can customize that part. It will be the same. How are you ensuring that your own website hosted in Germany is actually GDPR compliant? So it's not that much different besides the data collection on the forms. Anyone else?
Any other questions?
Cool. Then we can close it up. I hope it was fun, was insightful, that you enjoy it. We actually have our team also outside. They're going to give you some goodie bags, some flyers. We have a plant as well. That's actually quite cool. Some stickers and stuff like that. Yeah, it's like a plant cube that you can grow. So cool. Yeah.
Thank you.